Hello everyone, this is Marco from JAKLAR Positive Vibes. We are direct again from Hokipa Beach Park in the traces of the legends, and obviously we couldn't miss these two guys, these legends next to me out. To the one side we've got Rich Page from the PWA and we've got Simon Glasson from the IWT. First of all guys, big respect to you guys. Without you, competition wouldn't be happening at all. So it's obviously great that there are guys that are looking into getting the pro windsurfers to compete on a high level. So that's great to see. Rich, you've been with the PWA for many years. I think you started as a flagman, then you became judge, head judge, now you're tour director. Do you require certain standards with the PWA, which is nice? And tell us a little bit about the criteria to make a PWA event happen.
Well, our main role is to provide events at the level that the riders request on everything from prize money to on-site infrastructure to logistics support in terms of travel and accommodation. Basically to provide events on a level that the riders are happy to come and compete at from a financial point of view, and also so that they can focus on the competition. They're not spending too much time worrying about where they're going to leave their gear, what they're going to eat that day and this kind of thing. Obviously on top of that we have certain requirements in terms of media standards nowadays, because obviously there's very little point in having an event unless you can communicate it to the world. The sponsor value is obviously all in the media delivery. So our role really is to work with all of our local event partners around the world to help promote the sport with them, but also to ensure that those standards are fulfilled and that the riders are getting what they want.
Sounds fair enough. And Simon, obviously we've been talking before, you're looking at a bit of this long-term goal, what you try to achieve with the IWT. Can you give us a little bit of an insight, what you're following up and what your goal is?
Well, the goal is much the same as Rich's goal, which is keeping the top end of the sport alive and really strong. And we've got also trying to bring in more of the youth and the masters and the amateurs and give those people a lot of access to events as well. And where we come in to overlap and have good cooperation is where some of our events can start to dovetail in with the PWA events. If we can meet the conditions, of course, of the top riders, that's a huge factor, and we're very keen to do that, of course. And the best example of that, of course, is the Aloha Classic, where we work together and bring all these amazing things together for an amazing event. But the long-term goal is to try and expand the number of events for everyone around the world and to bring more money around the world. We've got this hemisphere, the Pacific Hemisphere, has been a bit slack and a bit slow with the windsurfing media for a long time. Europe has been really strong. I mean, it's never really stopped, never really slowed down. It's incredibly strong over there. But over here we've been overwhelmed with so many other sports, I suppose. We've got a lot of media that's pushing out with WSL and all sorts of other things. And back in the 90s, windsurfing was bigger than surfing. So we've let it slip here. So we're trying to build it back up. I mean, it's as simple as that. And we're trying to put a lot more media out there, and we're trying to sort of learn from what the WSL has done and create a vibe around here that suits this part of the world and reveals all the talent on this part of the world.
Perfect. And we've been talking to Antoine Martin. He actually really appreciated obviously having a lot more events because he came to the Aloha Classic. Yeah. Feeling kind of relaxed because he's already done so many competitions that he felt kind of relaxed going into this one. So, sure. And in the end obviously ended up being the event winner as well, which was great. Which Simon already talked to us a little bit about the cooperation you had here. Is this something like you're looking more for in the future to work together on things a little bit?
I think generally we're always looking to work with anyone, but obviously IWT are a significant ally in that respect to promote the sport. And whilst our focus is very much at the very top level of competition and in terms of the athletes, that can't survive without something to feed into it. You need the grassroots growth to bring people out of whether it's techno or some of the youth classes to come into more serious adult competition. But there needs to be a middle ground. You can't jump straight from the youth fleet into serious, more serious racing without, not do well anyway, at least without a bit of experience along the way. This event's a little bit unique in the fact that for both of us, it's one that effectively we organise ourselves. In terms of not working with a separate event partner. So there's a lot more work on both sides. From Simeon's side with the IWT, they're lucky luckily we have them on the ground to focus a lot on the on-site logistics and similar stuff, dealing with county permits and that kind of thing, which has been a lot of work this year. On our side, we have the advantage of perhaps the slightly more wide-scale media reach in Europe, which has helped us to bring in the Mercedes support, which has made the event possible at the top level. So it's very much a symbiotic relationship with this event in every aspect, more so than we would expect it to be with other events necessarily, because in most cases with other events we do have that third party of existing event event organizer who's handling a certain amount of that work. But no, I mean, we need the grassroots growth to support to feed into the pro level as much as possible, and we need the pro level to be aspirational for kids and people coming up in the sport to want to reach that level. Otherwise, there's nothing for them to work towards and no reason for them to compete anyway. Yeah. So there's a natural progression there to integrate these things, and obviously there's hurdles we need to get out of the way, certain things we need to work out in terms of what the criteria will be, how they'll be applied, and how we manage that between us. But certainly on a conceptual level, we all need to work together in the sport to push in the same direction. And sadly, in the past, from our point of view at least, a lot of the other bodies within windsurfing have been less keen to work in a hierarchical structure, which slowed down those benefits. But obviously now, as we move forward, and with again the successful partnership and experience of working with each other that we have with the JAKLAR Classic, even when we're working with big brands like Mercedes, means that we know where we stand and we have a good experience of working together to push that forwards.
Sounds interesting. And you already mentioned, obviously, we're talking to Mercedes-Benz, which are sort of making this event happen. They were in Sylt as well. They seem like they're really pushing into the sport. They're seeing the potential behind it, also from the lifestyle thing, but also the guys putting themselves out there in amazing conditions. There has been events that haven't been happening because maybe a small sponsor has stepped out, and it was sort of lacking that a few grand were missing to make an event happening. How can we manage, or how can we sort of try to get to it that maybe Mercedes-Benz is not only like an event sponsor, but maybe a tour sponsor?
Oh, well, I mean, that's obviously up to Mercedes-Benz and how they see their promotional material, and I think that they really enjoy the experience that they've had with the PWA over the last few years. I think it's been very strong. The media throughout Europe has been exceptionally good, and they're now having a bit of a toe in the water with something else, and Rich and the PWA has been very keen to try and draw that across here so that they can spread not just the benefits from the Mercedes sponsorship, but more specifically the benefits to the top riders, so we can spread the skill set across things a bit more easily and trying to sort of make it a stronger whole. The tour that's in Europe is it's essentially 3 events, and the PWA are always trying to put more events on. This year they had 2 events that they got very close to and then didn't quite happen for the various reasons, like you said. And we're keen to try and make sure more events happen, and if we can get a group like Mercedes to feel very strong about it, then I think it's good for the riders and it's good for the sport to show a bigger showcase opportunity for skills, and wave riding in particular is the thing that's over here. So with the Aloha Classic being such an incredible wave riding place, and the Mercedes coming over here and having what it looks to be a very good experience, I hope that they continue with that and they can see that we're working together well.
Sounds perfect. We were also thinking that maybe sort of, I mean, there's so many influential guys in the sport, within the sport. Some are active, some not active so much anymore, but they have massive reach, massive influential. Right. How could they be involved a little bit into this, and to start this windsurfing campaign to make it, make them more events again?
Well, they are involved anyway nowadays. The advent of social media means that it's not just the event organisational teams and media teams that are delivering content from the events and gaining the reach. Every athlete involved in an event now is delivering from that event. So one thing we've been focusing on, particularly in the last year or so, is to start to coordinate that activity more, so that not only when we turn up at an event are we communicating through PWA social media channels, but each one of the riders as well is communicating, some of which obviously are far bigger than others. You can take someone like Ricardo Campello, has a big following on Instagram, and when you combine that with all the other riders and what the PWA is doing centrally from our events, or IWT in their case, you're creating something that's far bigger than just the individual effort, and that in itself, in the way of value to any company from an influencer or similar, you're creating one very big influencer that can communicate the message of the event and get it out to a much wider audience. It's not always straightforward to do that, and obviously when you're dealing with individuals in contests, they're having ups and downs, so maybe what they're posting is not always exactly the same message. But either way, you're still getting that message out there to more and more people, and that obviously has a value to sponsors. I think from the Mercedes point of view, Mercedes-Benz have definitely been directing their efforts to more lifestyle sports involving surfing, windsurfing obviously through the World Cup Zilt for several years. And in a way, this is a perfect complement to what they're doing in Zilt, which is very much a public attendance event, to bring the imagery and the lifestyle that many of the people coming to the Zilt event are aspiring to be part of under the Mercedes banner as well. So it works quite well in that respect.
Totally agree. So yeah, well, thank you very much for your time. This was pretty epic to talk to you guys, obviously the most responsible guys that guys are competing. We've got you a little present here as just as a bit of a symbol, really, that we're going or try to go together.
Fantastic.
Got one each of the Aloha Classic key rings.
That's fantastic.
For you guys.
The Mercedes key is missing.
Yeah, well, the Mercedes key will come on, we will see. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks to talk to you.
Thank you.
It's great. It's
Always
a
a
pleasure.
And Rich,
Simeon,
good working with you.
and you, mate.
Together, this is what we're looking for. This is JAKLAR Positive Vibes. We're signing out from Hokipa Beach Park, and we see you soon. Aloha.